Hey everyone, Veronica here, and I'm back in the daily kitchen today. I'm sharing with you how I veganized the Trader Joe's Brownie Truffle Baking Mix. The baking mix that is available at Trader Joe's for the brownies is vegan in the box, but it does require some non-vegan ingredients. So if you're interested in making eggless brownies or dairy-free brownies, keep watching this video. And if you're new to my channel, I just want to say a hello and thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoy my sharing of vegan baking and grocery hauls from Trader Joe's, as well as a whole bunch of other ingredients that I love using in my vegan kitchen. So to substitute eggs for this brownie mix, I love to use ground flax seeds. Now, Trader Joe's does have ground flax seeds available, but I do purchase the Anthony's brand of ground flax meal available on Amazon. Then to substitute the butter, Trader Joe's has this really great organic vegan buttery spread. I found this to be really delicious. Our family enjoys it and it works really, really well as a butter substitute. So to prepare this brownie mix, you're going to need a 8x8 baking dish. I like to line mine with parchment paper, a small bowl for mixing together the water with the ground flax meal, as well as measuring spoons, forks, and I do use a dish and a scale to measure out the buttery spread. This is basically because the recipe calls for the butter in weight, and so I do find that weighing it is a little easier than trying to scoop out tablespoonfuls. So first you're going to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Then using my digital scale here, I'm going to measure out 4 ounces of the vegan buttery spread. Then to melt this butter, you can either melt it in a microwave, but I generally don't use a microwave. I like to use the oven. So I'm using a Pyrex oven-safe dish that I actually just popped right into the preheating oven to melt this butter. It's really important that you melt the butter so that it evenly distributes into your brownie mix. Then you're going to combine some ground flax meal. I use 1 tablespoon of ground flax meal per egg with 2.5 tablespoons of water. So this brownie mix calls for 2 eggs, so I used 2 tablespoons ground flax meal and 5 tablespoons of water. Now I combine these ingredients in a little dish and I whisk it really well to whisk all the clumps out. You want to whisk it right away so that the flax meal doesn't clump up. Sometimes if you add the water and just let it sit, then it turns into like a weird clumpy mix. So I whisk it really well and then I set it aside for just a few minutes so that the flax seeds can absorb all the moisture. All right, so next I'm opening up the brownie mix packaging. As you can see, the mix comes in a bag, and on the directions, I'm just sharing with you what the directions say to add to the baking mix. It's really just minimal ingredients. Like I mentioned, it's basically melted vegan butter mixed with the ground flax meal, some water, and the brownie mix. And that's basically it. So I'm going to add the flaxseed mixture into my melted butter. The butter is basically softened. It doesn't have to be totally liquid, but you definitely don't want it to be really hard. So I'm just going to mix the egg replacer, which is the ground flax meal, with the vegan butter until it's whisked together really well and well incorporated. This is basically what you would do if you were using eggs and butter. You whisk those together first, then you add the baking mix and just mix it until the baking mix is nice and moistened by the butter and the egg substitute. Then I added a little bit more water, basically like 2 teaspoons more water, just to make sure that this was nice and moistened. But as you can see, you want a very thick batter. You don't want a thin batter for brownies. This is not a cake, it's brownies. And brownies are usually dense and fudgy and not pourable. So as you can see, my batter is very thick. I'm using a silicone spatula to spread my thick batter into my parchment-lined baking dish. And I chose to add some crushed up walnuts to the top of these brownies. I found this to be a really delicious addition, and walnuts are very healthy, so I like to add those into my recipes as often as I can. Now, once I've put all of the batter into my baking dish, I'm adding it into my preheated oven, and I'm just going to let it cook according to the package directions. I set my timer for 25 minutes, then I check the brownies, and as long as they are fully cooked through, then I remove them from the oven. If they're not fully cooked through, then just add another 5 or 8 minutes to the baking time, and they should be nice and cooked through. Now, before slicing them, you definitely want to cool your brownies completely so that they set up properly. If you don't do that, then you're going to have like a kind of sticky mess on your hands. So make sure that you let your brownies cool completely. Then I use basically, this is like a metal pastry cutter, and I'm using that to cut the brownies, but you can also use like a knife or whatever you have on hand to cut the brownies. And that's it. So that's basically how I would veganize a brownie mix. I would substitute the ground flax meal and the butter with a vegan butter, and then you have a nice egg-free brownie mix. Now, I know a lot of people aren't vegan, and you're probably tuning into this video just to see how to make these without eggs. I know eggs are very expensive, and you probably want to save those for like an egg dish. So this is just a great substitute. Well, I hope you enjoyed my eggless brownie recipe, and I hope that you subscribe to my channel and like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.